We should be live. Okay, let me make sure that I am live, because that would suck if I wasn't. Because everything's glitchy today. And that would just be unfortunate. Well, is it live? It says it's live. Okay, hold on. Okay, so we're not live. Streaming on YouTube is the worst. Okay, wait, we are live. Can I hear myself? Wait, I'm so confused. Okay, yeah, I can. All right. Okay. Okay. Anyways, so as you can see by the title screen, we have a huge storm system brewing. A huge storm system brewing, and this is going to be the first of many days that we are going to be live. Where tomorrow, more than likely, and Saturday and Sunday, I think we're going to be live because there's going to be severe weather for the whole Great Lakes region, our covering region, which is like accumulated of this, including Canada. And we're not forgetting about Canada. Um, so yeah, so here's your current visible satellite imagery. So right now we do have this little shortwave trough moving through, and that has brought a bit of a low pressure system. You actually see the cyclonic spin with it, if you look closely. See that kind of spin. And let's see here. I'm talking about my audio stream bit rate of. Hold on. Live production, everybody. Hold on. Live production. Okay, this. Um, I don't know what it wants from me. My audio bit rate. Maybe I'll turn my audio down. Is that'll probably work? I may have gotten a little bit quieter, but that should fix it. Hopefully, maybe. Anyways, and there's some storms going on over here in this region. We can pull up weather-wise, and there was a special weather statement a few minutes ago. If it loads, maybe, maybe not, maybe. So there was a special weather statement that did happen, and these storms, and this was what we were expecting. We were expecting today just a huge general risk and a huge marginal risk of severe weather. That is what we were expecting. Now, so that's happening now. But anyways, we're going to get into what's happening later. So if we go to the site, and if we go to current data, That's gonna have to use one. Okay, outlooks. So tomorrow, day 2, we have a huge day upcoming. So first, we're gonna talk about the severe weather. So we're gonna go severe weather, blizzard, fire, wind. Actually, for our area, we might go wind, fire. But there's a fire risk. That's not for our area though. Maybe. I don't think so. I think it's just for Texas. We're gonna primarily cover the weather affecting the Great Lakes. I know in my thumbnail I had purple, pink, green in California. Actually, if I pull it up, I don't know if I can pull the thumbnail up, but yeah. Actually, I probably could pull up the thumbnail. If it works. Shut up, YouTube. YouTube's mean to me. I talked about this like days ago. Here. Okay. Error. Shut up. Hold on, I gotta fix the error. Okay. So that's going. Okay. I hate streaming on this software, but anyways, you can see that we have in this area we do have severe weather. So these two, reddish areas are where the most significant severe weather will be taking place, and it will be significant. Over here in the blue is where our blizzard's going to be happening. That might be a bit bigger than what I drew because I drew this really fast. This is the overall fire weather risk in the pink. And then this was supposed to be some sort of atmospheric river event over here, but we're covering the Great Lakes. And that means we're going to be having this blizzard going on somewhere, primarily in the blue and, in the Canada. And then for the rest of our covering area, we have this huge kind of threat for severe weather. Right now it seems minimal, but there is a slight risk, mainly for our main covering. But our main covering area actually is under a moderate risk of severe weather, specifically in this portion. Well, actually, it's probably bigger. I just made this really quickly, so that's that. But as you see, our actual moderate risk of severe weather exists right here. Once again, a moderate risk of severe weather. And this is going to exist for the net's way too big. Okay, so here's your moderate risk. So this is where we're expecting like straight line damaging winds up to 70 to 90 miles per hour, similar to a derecho. I'm not saying it's going to be one, but I'm just saying it's really similar. Next, we have this huge enhanced risk of severe that goes from Mississippi, Alabama, all the way into Indiana. So this is well into our covering region. And we do have a marginal risk of severe weather up to Duluth, a little bit south of Houghton. So that's going to be happening. Once again, we're mainly focused on the areas within the orange. Specifically, we're hyper-focused in the areas in the red. Good news is this is not tornado-driven. But even though it's not tornado-driven, there's still going to be a chance of tornado anywhere inside the green. So anywhere inside the green, you have at least some sort of chance of a tornado. We're specifically looking at this 10% hatched risk, which means everywhere in this 10% where you see those hatch marks, the whole 10%. So if a tornado's happened, if a tornado or a few happen in this general risk area, which I think probably will, to be honest, then there is a chance that it could be significant. That's from an EF, an EF1, EF2, maybe EF3. Uh, then we're not expecting any violent tornadoes because a violent tornado is EF3 plus, but we're not expecting any violent tornadoes with this setup Friday. But we could see a significant tornado or two. It's a huge risk area, so I could say or three, primarily because it's a huge risk area. It's covering a lot. Even though it's a 10% hatched risk and not a 15%, but I mean, it's still more significant than your regular, small 10% hatched risk because it's huge. It's covering how much is its population on it? I think I can check the population. So it's like 13.1 million people. That's basically it's really significant. So take this seriously in St. Louis. I don't know how to pronounce St. Louis, Missouri, Jacksonville, Illinois, Bloomington, Illinois, Kenowa, Illinois, Effingham, Evansville, Indiana, Paducah, Kentucky, uh, Murray, Clarksville, Tennessee, Memphis, Tennessee, Jackson, Mississippi, Meridian, Mississippi, Greenville, Mississippi, um, you know, DeWitt, Arkansas, this huge area. But once again, this is driven by a wind risk. So the wind's where the moderate is. So here's your wind risk. Wow, wind risk. Once again, we're specifically talking about everywhere in this hatched area for significant winds. So everywhere in this hatched area, specifically in the yellow to red, anywhere from 70 to 60 to 70 to 80 mile per hour winds. But everywhere in this pink hatched risk, we can see anywhere from 70 to 90 mile per hour winds. So once again, if you're anywhere in the hatched area, please, the significant winds. But as you go more specifically into Quincy, St. Louis, Farmington, Cape Girardeau, uh, Poplar Bluff, that is where we're kind of in Peoria, Illinois. Um, it was good. Okay. So I'm just replying to a text. Um, but yeah, but specifically in this pink area, that's where we're going to see the most significant winds, and that is where we're going to have just once again the main threat for Friday: significant wind. And this will, as it goes on, it will continue to be significant. Then the chances of it continuing to be significant after it passes, central Illinois, it will still be significant. Probably will be. Then after it passes, let's say just west central Indiana, like west of Indianapolis, um, we'll probably still see some winds. But it looks like there is no significant tag, which means those winds are probably going to be anywhere from 60 miles per hour. Maybe I can't rule out in the orange, sorry, in the yellow specifically, even if there's not a hatched deer, I can't rule out isolated 70s, but I really don't think so. I think it's going to be anywhere from outside the hatched area, 60 mile per hour. Wind gusts, those are a bit more likely 60 in the yellow, not hatched, and everywhere in the hatch, of course. Um, the hail threat, I think there is a pretty good hail threat, actually. So there is a pretty good hail threat. So everywhere that you can see, there is a hail threat. So large hail possible anywhere inside the brown. Obviously, it's not that much likely in the brown, but it's possible, especially where supercells develop. Well, when original where the supercells that form into a line develop, especially. But it looks like the SPC has a hatched area. Whoa. Has a hatched area. Which means we could see significant hail, potentially up to baseballs. And that is emphasized once again right here in St. Louis. You're in the mix of everything. Poplar Bluff, um, Carbondale, Carbondale, Farmington, Cape Crudo, Jacksonville, Illinois. Just, please be weather aware. You guys, so if you're really just in this area, sorry, I need to draw better. If you're really in this kind of area tonight, sorry, tomorrow, in this black area that I just drew, you're going to see potentially some significant hail, up to really large hail, potentially the baseball size. You're going to see significant winds anywhere from 70 to 90 mph, possibly. You could see tornadoes, maybe one or two, a couple. And one of those, at least one or two of those, could be at least one, could be a significant tornado. Once again, that's from EF1 to 2. Uh, well, that's not EF1's not a significant tornado. That's from EF2 plus. But a violent tornado is EF3 plus. So a significant tornado is basically from EF2 to EF3. It's possible. It's a 10% hatched for a significant tornado, so it's the lowest a significant tornado risk can go technically, but it's still a significant risk, and you should take it seriously, especially if you're in this area, and generally just in the moderate risk of severe weather. Please pay attention. You go on to day 3, and this is where I guess we used to say it's the main course, and I guess you can say that, but I believe there's 2 main courses. There's Friday, and this could be the main tornado course. So the area of moderate risk of severe weather, anywhere from the New Orleans, Gulfport, Mobile, Alabama, Jackson, Mississippi, Hattiesburg, Mississippi, Laurel, Meridian, Montgomery, Tuscaloosa, Fayette, um, Birmingham. That's going to be your a tornado-driven risk. So there's likely going to be, and the SPC has said that there's likely going to be a tornado outbreak in this red area. And we could see tornadoes, significant tornadoes, inside the orange too. But inside the red, we might see probably significant to maybe even violent tornadoes. Once again, that's at EF3 plus. And I'm not even fear-mongering. James Spann said it too. But specifically for our area, for our covering area, we are at our max risk for our covering area is a slight risk that exists from this area I'm drawing, this yellow slight risk that basically covers 90% of Ohio. Wow, I cannot talk today. Specifically for our area, talk about Evansville, Cincinnati, Louisville, Maysville, Frankfort, Lexington, LaGrange, Criden, um, Bedford, Indiana, Seymour, Palos, Salem, Indiana, Richmond, Indiana, then Cincinnati, Ohio, Georgetown, Ohio, Wilmington, Ohio, Hamilton, Columbus, Ohio, Newark, Zanesville, Marysville, Springfield, Villafronte, Sandusky, Lorraine, Cleveland, Ashtabula. And this does go into Pittsburgh, near, that Youngstown, New Philadelphia, Canton, Lorraine. Pittsburgh is also in that slight risk, so is, Meadville is on a line, Greenville, Newcastle. Then we have this huge marginal risk of severe weather where we're probably not going to see severe weather, but more likely strong storms. But severe weather is possible. So I know a lot of people who are watching this are from Ohio, since Great Lakes WX tracking, we used to cover Ohio back in the day. I'm saying back in the day, like months ago, like since last June or July. Uh, yeah, since last July, we are actually covering Ohio. So there's obviously going to be a lot of Ohio people here, people from Ohio. Um, The thing about this is everywhere up here is kind of a I don't know what this area. I do agree with the slight risk of severe weather. But it looks like it really actually for pretty much all of Ohio. No, maybe not south. So maybe something. Pretty much for this area. It's pretty much up in the air about the severe weather risk, especially in the slight risk, because it really just depends on the morning that those morning storms from Friday. They're going to decay, so potentially be severe, but there are going to be some rain and storms over here in this area, and that could obviously stabilize and cloud up the atmosphere. What we're wondering is how long those clouds will stay, because models have suggestions, and we will go into models that there's going to be a lot of cloud cover during the whole day and afternoon to evening in Ohio. But there will be some breaks that could destabilize the atmosphere. So there will be some parameters up here to support severe weather, but once again, it all depends on how much that morning convection stabilizes the atmosphere. How fast can the atmosphere recover? And also the storm mode. There's going to be a lot of heavy rainfall first, accompanied with some storms. Specifically in this slight risk, we could see some embedded, low top or supercellular storms. Or our main risk is more than likely going to be wind. So everywhere that I'm drawing, your main risk is going to be wind. But especially in the slight risk, we cannot rule out a tornado or two, especially in the slight risk. And maybe some small hail. It's very possible. We can go a little bit more in depth. Here's your probably. We don't have those tornado outlooks. We don't have those wind out. We don't have the specific outlooks yet. That'll come on day 2. We do have the probabilistic, and all this shows is really just because a marginal risk is 5%, a slight is 15%, equivalent to that. Enhanced is 30, marginal 45, and plus is high risk. So here's your moderate and enhanced risk, and these both do have the significant tag. So in both the enhanced and moderate risk, specifically the moderate risk, significant severe weather is possible, and more is expected, I should say, especially in this red area. So likely in everywhere hatch, including the red, expected in the pink. Significant severe weather is expected in the moderate risk, the pink, for probabilistic. And once again, this is tornado driven. The hatched area is tornado driven, followed by wind, followed by hail. Or wind and hail can both flip flop around. But driven by tornadoes. Once again, in the pink, the moderate violent tornadoes cannot be ruled out. So, continuing with the severe weather coverage, right? Let's look actually in depth into models. So our short range, we can go into the NamNest. We're going to specifically go into our sector. So we can go to the can we not do the whole United States? How does this work? Okay, I'm just gonna do minimize sector. Okay. Anyway, so here we go. So as we go into Friday, so this is around 20Z. So March 14th, 20Z. So that is going to be around, hold on, let me think really fast here. So that's going to be around 4 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. We're going to have some some cells. So we have this one thing that low pressure is going to continue to strengthen, bring a lot of rain. But then we do have these supercells developing, kind of like this. Now, as we go on, they will continue to develop and basically form a line, and they're immediately going to become severe. Possibly some embedded tornadoes potentially in the early parts, or the whole part. But there's going to be some significant wind already happening. You can see by those helicity of things. But if you look over here, there's going to be more cells developing, and they are literally right next to this low. What I'm kind of concerned about is I'm concerned about maybe a little bit of a greater tornado threat, because there's going to be a lot of vorticity near that low. It's spinning. So I'm not going to be surprised to potentially see maybe even a couple at least tornadoes, maybe a couple at least of tornadoes happen in this kind of region in the early run, and that's non-significant for this part. The part that I circled, non-significant if they do form, because it's going to be quickly submerged into the line. So really just some quick spin ups, if you will. No, okay, that's not going to work. Okay. Now, as we go on, you can see that these kind of just form together. They do strengthen a little bit. So once again, I do think that wind, threat, and hail will definitely continue to increase. Possibly an isolated tornado yet again. But then look at this. Here's your that was a horrible drawing. But I need to stop drawing so horribly, guys. Anyways, here's your wow. No, I've fallen off. But here's really where your line is. Well, getting ready to be a line, and here's your actual line of damaging winds. Then right here, you see this kind of the tail end of this, the tail end Charlie, if you will. This kind of side, right? You see these little supercells, right? These little small beans. These I think will be the greatest tornado risk. And those could produce a significant tornado, though. This is around 00Z on the 15th, but that's probably not actually. So 00Z. So this is not actually this is around 8 p.m. on Friday, not the 15th. It's just how models work. It kind of. Now, as we continue, I'm honestly kind of surprised. I haven't looked too in depth at this, but I'm kind of a little bit surprised that these still are kind of, because this part died, but this part's still going. So maybe a bit more of a long-lived severe weather threat, if you will. Over here, mainly in wind and hail. A few tornadoes, at least a couple cannot be ruled out. Then as we go on this line, just continues of damaging winds. Once again, look to the south of that, we have a lot of supercells developing. That's where your greatest tornado risk is going to be. And then we do have something try to form in front of it. I guess that can also maybe produce a risk. Now, as we go on through the night, this will continue. And this will be right in the Chicago area, and this is around 5Z. 5Z. This is around 1 a.m. on the 15th, Saturday. They're going to be generally in the Chicago area. This whole line of damaging winds likely. Some significant damaging winds will still be in this general region. And then once again, we still have this kind of messy mode right here. And that is going to be where once again, we're still going to have that threat for tornadoes. We're still going to have that threat. I don't know by this sense if it's going to be significant if one does form. But definitely a few tornadoes cannot be ruled out. At least a couple. But as we go on, you can see this thing kind of just dies. gonna die. So this is around 8Z. So I'm guessing this is around 4 a.m. It's dying. We still have this kind of broken up feature right here. So we still could actually have a tornado risk in the morning, over here. And then I think this is where our blizzard takes place. If I'm not mistaken, I'll have to check. But we do have these severe weather and very much broken, mainly just some regular storms, some isolated severe, maybe a couple of tornadoes cannot be ruled out. But this mainly just be regular storms heading into Ohio. I'm actually just going to check really quick. But we are also going to be monitoring once again for this blizzard threat potentially. But we'll get into that after our severe coverage. Now, as we go on, it looks like some things try to reconvect. So as this goes on, once again, isolated tornado potentially still ongoing, but very low. I think very low. Low threat. Mainly just some storms, some strong. But as we go, it looks like there is some type of reconvection for here in Ohio. Potentially some storms, maybe some strong happening over here in central Ohio. As we go out through the day, through the morning, it looks like these storms continue to reconvect through basically cutting down a line from northern Ohio, northeastern Ohio down the line. These are probably just going to be some strong storms. Potentially a severe threat could be possible with these. I'm just going to quickly check something. Thing is, there's like no environment out in front of that. There's no environment out in front of that. Just known, but there is some shear. So I think this is going to be an LCHS type of thing, a low K pi shear thing, or the shear and the K index is probably going to really help it. Is there going to be shear? Yeah. Yeah. What's the temperature in seconds? So the temperature's going to be in the low 50s over here, so that's interesting. But anyways, as we go on, these storms will fizzle out and continue. Once again, this regular storm is over here, down over here. That's really it for our covering area, at least, but we can't. But now this is kind of going out of our covering area, so we have to go to the northeastern sector. Actually, I'm just going to quickly see what that environment looks like out in front of the storms. I do want to see that really quickly. If it loads, that would be great. If it loaded, would be fantastic. Wouldn't that be fantastic, guys, if it loaded? I mean, that would just be great. G-rate. So once again, like I said, it's gonna be a low cape, high shear thing. You see over here in the photograph. So it's gonna be a low cape, high shear thing. I don't really like looking at it, but the potential hazard type also says none. So that should that can give some signals about the severe weather threat. The thing is, the low lapse rates are pretty bad. But the mid and upper, they're pretty good. That can be a factor. The K index is really low. I'm kind of surprised. So it's really just going to be lapse rate and shear, huh? The humidity isn't even that great, to be honest. Like 50 to 40. That's weird. Okay. So that's kind of suspicious. Kinda suspicioso. But as we go into Pennsylvania, this will continue to happen. And if I kind of just give up a little bit of front, that might be a little bit contaminated. But it's not that bad. I probably should have chat up, but I don't. I don't know what is happening. Anyways, here we go. So the K index increased by a 1. Lapse rates are horrible. P watt is lower, RH is lower. It's just gonna be sheer helping these things, so they should just generally be just storms. Now, as we go on through the day, it will continue, continue, and it will kind of just die off in the distance. But it looks like we try to get one cell just southeast of Buffalo that tries to convect. Let's see what that looks like out in front of it. I'm all for rogue supercells. But let's see if it actually has an environment, or if it's another thing that shear is, tricking us. I don't think it has an environment in front of it. So there's no way the atmosphere covers that much. This is also by the morning to afternoon, Saturday. So here it is. I mean, on the skew T, it got better. It got better on the skew T a little bit. But there's a little bit of a cap. So you can see 50, and it really cools. It really cools. And then, boom, it warms past 50 degrees. That is honestly crazy. Crazy. Well, no, it warms pretty good. There's a obvious warm nose right here. Obvious low level warm nose. I don't know if it's gonna do that much, but what it's gonna do, so if you see, well, our precipitable water increased, our K index increased, our shear I think is relatively the same or increased. Our lapse rates, a little of lapse rates increased. Our mid and upper stayed the same. Most unstable cape and is actually there was some most unstable cape, and our K index really increased. So it recovered. It recovered a little bit. So I mean, so the atmosphere did recover a tiny bit out in front of the cell. So that may keep it a bit long-lived, but I bet you it's going to disappear in the next run. Yeah, that's what I thought. Now, as we go on, we go into Saturday proper. And here is, I think, what's going to be one of our field modes for the Ohio and Kentucky threat. I switched the sector back over here to a mid-Atlantic. So we have this starting up. So we have this down here around the afternoon and the evening. We have this starting up over here in this damaging wind line. We have rogue supercells out in front of it. That's going to be potentially significant to violent. And then we just have a lot of rain. A lot of rain happen. A lot of rain. And that, that could ruin the environment. I'm sorry, I'm laughing because, a few people who might be a little bit sad about it. So that might just cook it. Yeah. But I mean, there's still going to be there's going to be some cells out in front of it. Those are more likely going to produce some strong winds, potentially, 60 miles per hour, maybe an isolated tornado threat, but kind of looks like crapola, if you get what I mean. This sound is going to be, there's no non-contaminated sounding to do. So if the NAM is right, if the NAM 3 kilometer is right, there's going to be a lot of rain in Ohio and Indiana tomorrow, or Saturday. But look at that. It looks like there's actually some pretty good clear about, eastern Ohio, northeastern Ohio, western Pennsylvania. That can actually do that. Can pretty. I think this probably shifts the threat a little bit more to the east. A little bit. Because there's no rain. So there's probably a better atmosphere. More than likely going to be a better atmosphere. So here's the sounding. So we do have a sounding. So here's a sounding from right here. This is literally just southwest of Columbus. So there's a sounding from right there. So our shear definitely increased. Look at that. Those blocky, curvy photograph. So here, so it looks like that cap is eroding. There's a small inversion. That's not going to do much. Our lapse rates are pretty good. Our significant tornado parameter is up there. Potential hazard is tornado. But that does not mean there's going to be a tornado. But our cape and multi-layer cape are in the thousands. Our LCL is below 1 kilometer. Our EL is a little bit below 12, so that can support a strong, tall storm. And our wind shear is definitely there. So it looks like there will be. It looks like that once again it supports the threat for severe weather. Now, if I do a sounding near Lorraine, Canton area in front of these, this isn't going to be non-contaminated, so I'll be a bit more pristine. If it loads. If it loads. That's another thing about this, if it loads. Come on, I know you can do it. Come on. Okay. So out in front of it in northern Ohio, northeastern Ohio. So same thing. And photographs are still there. A bit more of a cap. A bit more of a cap in northern Ohio. A bit more of a cap. That's because of all that rain. Our LCL is a bit more lifted. That doesn't really matter that much. Our surface cape is definitely half lower than central Ohio. But our multi-layer effective are in the thousands. Our lapse rates are a bit more better. And our shear's there. So we could live in severe weather also in northern Ohio. But it depends on a lot of things. I don't know if the HRRR is so the HR is loaded. Yeah, it's really interesting. That's really interesting. Okay. Though we do have our HRRR, so we can kind of go back to the Midwest and do this all over again with the HRRR. So it looks like around 22Z. So around. So when storms form over here in the Midwest, those original the Friday storms, they formed around they formed around 8 p.m. That's yeah, they formed around 8 p.m. and this one no, I'm lying. They formed around so on the NAM they formed around 4 p.m. On the HR they form in Missouri around what's that gonna be? 6 p.m. So the HRR is a little bit later. A little bit later. As we go on, look at that wind, look at that wind threat. Well, I won. Look at that. Those updraft felicity tracks. Because if you look at my, look at that, I had it right here. So wait a minute, hold on. I had it right here, the highest, the moderate, right in this area. Okay. And then, I mean that's pretty good. That is that's pretty wild. I got it right. Well, I don't know if I got it right yet, but it's pretty aligned with HRR that the wind threat's probably gonna get a bit more worse around the point over here. So I think the wind threat's definitely gonna maximize over here. And it's not going to be a high risk. It's not going to be a high. Yes, this blue circle is within the moderate, but by no means will this be a high risk. By no means. It will not be a high risk. And I'm going to do a sounding. Oh, I can't on the page. But we do have some prefrontals that actually form. That can be a pretty good tornado risk. And these will propagate into their own little line. Actually, I wonder what the HRRR has. So I'm actually going to go to pivotal weather. I'm going to go to the HRRR 12Z. sounding right here. There's okay. Oh, oh, okay. That's just crazy. That's just crazy. So the environment's gonna be behind it. I see. I see. So that's your overall. So the severe risk, we don't really know for sure. That's gonna be on the day Friday. We will know Saturday is full severe risk. But moving on, let's talk about winter weather. We gotta talk about that winter weather. So so to overview what we just talked about with the severe weather is that one, tomorrow, Friday, is going to be our covering area's big day. That's gonna be tomorrow's gonna be our big day, specifically for the Great Lakes region. Specifically for our covering area, because you have moderate risk in our covering area, moderate risk of severe weather. And this will exist once you within this area. Once you were in this in this orange area, we can see hail potentially large, wind potentially big, tornadoes one maybe one or two maybe significant. In the red, that's where our hotspot is. Significant winds up to 70 to 90 miles per hour, baseball size or even more hail, and a few significant tornadoes, at least a couple. Going into day 3, it's a little bit unknown, but we have a tornado outbreak in the south. But looking at our specific covering area, we do have a slight marginal risk. And the slight risk, it looks like we're going to have some pretty good wind. It's definitely lead by a wind threat, and then by a potential tornado threat that also exists in the marginal risk, and maybe some light hail. Timing, we don't know that. Timing is going to be in the afternoon to evening, but we will know more tomorrow. Anyhow, let's talk winter weather. So as the system goes on, so here's that system. Here it goes, and look at that snow. I'm sorry, I'm just talking crazy over here. Anyways, look at this snow. So as this goes on, we do have so around afternoon to in the afternoon, Friday, morning and afternoon Friday, we have this shield of snow, potentially some blizzard conditions to a blizzard. And as the low propagates to the east, this is gonna be blizzard conditions with heavy snow. It does show some mix. I don't know if that's gonna be totally true, but for our covering area, we're gonna have some blizzard type conditions. As it goes on, that will continue for our area as it goes east. When you're more east into the see, Pivotal has better. I'm just gonna say this: Pivotal weather has better sectors than College of DuPage. I will stand by that to my grave. Pivotal just has better sectors. So here we are. Okay, so here we are. So we're gonna. Okay, so as we go on, See that shield of snow? Look at that. Look at that. That's just some heavy snow. And this is the issue. I want the NAM. I want the NAM. I want the NAM. I want the NAM. So as it goes on, it will continue. But for areas like Houghton, Wisconsin, and the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, it will start off as some moderate to heavy rain. Then you get a little bit of a break. Then you see that snow and blizzard conditions. Snow accumulation. Let's talk about it. So, snow accumulation. So the GFS. Let's see the GFS first. I want the total snowfall Kirkshire. And let's just plug it. No, we don't want to plug it. No, we want to just keep it. So here's your total snowfall accumulation the GFS has. It definitely wants, and that blizzard is probably to take place in this area and more. That's where our blizzard's probably going to take place. Maybe even a bit more into Michigan. Because remember, you do not need snowfall anymore to make a blizzard. You need, blowing snow with 3 to 5 miles per hour plus winds, really to none visibility, really low visibility, and all that lasting for at least 3 hours or more. But it looks like the worst of it's going to be over here in our covering area in Minnesota and Canada, where the GFS has, let me clear this, the GFS has anywhere from, that's just not zero, you're killing me, Pivotal. You're killing me, you're killing me, you're killing me. So it's not reading it because it's bad. But anywhere from, it looks like 6 to maybe even some 12 inches happening. The GFS after Minnesota is not showing anything significant for snowfall. Maybe some lake enhancement over here in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. But that's only be like 1 to 2 inches, maybe some 3s in higher terrain. But it looks like the lake isn't going to be that much of a player because of the wind direction and all that stuff. So the lake is not going to be a player. But there could be some like enhancement up to 1 inch to 2 inches, maybe some 3s. But it looks like for at least our area, the most significant accumulation is going to be in the Canadian and Minnesotan area. And those will come with blizzard conditions. Now, if we actually go to I nailed that forecast, by the way. Yet again, I kind of nailed it. I kind of nailed it. That's wild. That's just wow. That's just wow. Why? So we have been streaming for almost an hour, and we are not done yet talking about this storm. But as that continues, so we have that going on. I don't think there's going to be any ice accumulation. But for that mixed precipitation, it's actually showing some ice happening in Canada and a little bit of Minnesota. That's where our what do you call it? That's where our mixing. I cannot talk. That's where our mixed precipitation freezing rain is going to be. Also about the severe risk. Nope. So I forgot that so we're gonna pause from the winter risk, but we're actually gonna go back to the severe risk because I forgot I made graphics this morning. So this morning at 9 a.m. I did make a graphic. So showing basically what we think. This is basically what we at the Great Lakes Subjects Tracking. This is what we think. The first thing I think is I think I did this a little bit too far over here. I think I did it a little bit too far over here, but not that bad. Just ignore this part. But other than that, so we do have this, yellow area for Friday. That is a golden yellow. That is, scattered severe storms possible, possibly. Then in this orange area, this a golden, sorry, dark orange, we have numerous severe storms. Sorry, numerous severe storms possible. Numerous severe possible, possibly. Then the red, sorry, in that red orange, we have widespread severe likely. So everywhere in the orange to the yellow, that's all possible, but it obviously increases into the orange. But likely widespread severe storms are likely in the red orange area. Going into Saturday, I probably have to make this a little bit. So pretend the yellow is a little bit more east. Pretend it's a little bit more east. But actually no, I think it's pretty good right there. Maybe just a tad more east. And once again, in the yellow, we do have once again scattered severe storms, possible. But then in the that dark orange, we have those numerous possibly. That this may be upgraded a little bit more north. There is a possibility. It's possible it could be upgraded more north. We'll have to see. After that, I have nothing. I have no other graphics for you, but you're gonna have to stay tuned to either next stream tomorrow, or you can stay tuned to our social media page at Great Lakes WX Tracking, spelled like this, spelled specifically like this. Crap. Spelled specifically like this on our Twitter, our X. Sorry. And to keep the update, you can go to our page because that still exists. Oh, come on, you got it. Our page still exists, guys. So you can look at that. I think this is broken. Web otherwise. App refused. Okay, I have to fix that. But we still have our RMS data. This is still updating. This just takes a while to update. But here's your ice tracker. And our ice is rapidly decaying. Though some scattered ice with the most ice accumulation still begin Lake Erie. That is rapidly decaying. Here's your warnings from Environmental Canada. So in our covering area, we do have a red warning. And that's going to be a freezing rain warning. Here's your Weather Service alerts. It needs to be updated. Okay, next thing that I wanted to talk about was the wind. The wind. So we talked about the blizzard. We talked about the wind. No, we didn't talk. We talked about severe weather. We talked about the blizzard. Actually, this is going to continue on to the blizzard. But here's your wind risk. So we're going to use the. Let's go to the NAM. Go to the NAM. And we're going to go to surface. here's your wind gusts. So we're gonna take this. So our wind gusts are mainly gonna be down here, but as the storm develops, this is around once again on the 14th around 11 a.m. We're gonna have widespread across the region. Wind gusts from 17 and maybe even some 30-mile-per-hour wind gusts being likely. As that goes on, that will spread to across the region, basically everywhere in the region. But then also in the region, we're going to get some 40 to around when those storms form, we're going to get some 40 to 30 wind gusts. And as that go on, we're going to have that significant wind threat. 60-mile-per-hour winds plus. As that front comes on by Ohio and the backside of it, we're all going to have at least anywhere from 20 to 45 miles per hour. Maybe some 50s of wind gusts. And as that goes on, as this winter precipitation comes in, we're talking about that blizzard. We're going to have 30 mile per hour or 35 mile per hour plus wind gusts happening across the region. And this is going to be multi-day. Even into Sunday, we're going to have some lingering 15 to 20, 30 mile per hour wind gusts happening. Oh, you know what I forgot to mention? Sunday's risk for severe weather. I totally forgot about that. I'm sorry. But yeah, we do have a risk Sunday for severe weather from the panhandle, the eastern panhandle of Florida up to New York. And this barely caresses our covering region. This barely caresses our covering region. So honestly, actually, we may not go live. Well, it's still up in the air if we do go live Sunday, because obviously we're going to have this slight risk that barely caresses our region, but we're also probably going to have that marginal threat. So it's possible. It's still up in the air. But this is probably going to be a wind threat. This is going to be wind-driven. Wind-driven slight. So I think we talked about everything that I needed to talk about. And that happened in what, like an hour and 8 minutes? So I talked about what I needed to talk about. And there will be much more in depth tomorrow. I'll be much more in depth tomorrow. But let's go a last overview of what we just talked about. So tomorrow, big day for our region. Big day for our recovery area. Moderate risk of severe weather. We're everywhere in this orange. Could potentially see, strong hail, definitely wind, 60 to 70 mile per hour, and eventually a few significant tornadoes are possible. In the red, we're hyper focused on the red area where we have 70 to 90 mile per hour wind gusts, large baseball sized hail, and tornadoes cannot be ruled out, maybe a few significant. As we go into day 3, we have an enhanced and moderate tornado-driven risk. For our area, we have a slight marginal, where everyone the slight is a wind-driven, followed by hail a little bit, and then as it probably wind tornado hail. So there is some sort of tornado risk, not great, probably like a 2 or 5% chance of a tornado. It's possible, but it's just low. So, yeah. So that's a severe threat. Yep, and I forgot. And that does go into a little bit of our covering area. We did that little bit of a slight risk. I happen. That's a slight risk of severe weather. Wind driven. of that blizzard threat, it does exist over here in this region. It doesn't go out that far to what we need it to, but one thing we're also going to have, if I refer back to this, we're going to have heavy snow to a blizzard with some ice accumulation being possible over here in the blue, severe weather over here in the yellow and reds. And that's basically what our cover region is covering. Outside of our cover region, we have this kind of rainfall atmospheric river event with some snow in the higher elevation, and I do have this huge fire risk. So that is all the weather that we are talking about today. So please stay tuned for the stream tomorrow. And have multiple ways to receive alerts, obviously, for tomorrow and Saturday, Sunday. Pretty busy Friday and weekend ahead. And yeah, that's really it. That's all I have for you today. Yes. So make sure there's something else I need to tell you. Okay. So that'll be it. See you guys tomorrow. Stay updated on our social media, which is Great Lakes WX Tracking. Spelled like this on our X and Twitter. X or Twitter, I should say. Spelled like this, Great Lakes WX Tracking. Thank you.